No one freak out when I use eyes instead of optics, okay? So people seem to misunderstand the point of this video. I'm not going to blab on about special meanings to eye colors, going, yes, blue is good and closest to Energon and Primus, red is evil and shows allegiance to the Decepticons, yellow is neutral. No. I'm not going to find meanings and make an English teacher proud. Why? Well, frankly, because when I sat down and thought about the logic, I realized that it would all be bull. Now, the rules are different in each and every Transformers continuity. Eye colors can and do have meanings in other continuities, but I cannot speak on those because I only have expanded knowledge on the aligned continuity. And let's be clear on my method of coming to my answers. For questions such as this, we do not get a clear line stating the answer. My answer is speculation based on the material given and logic. I am, however, challenged by poor writing, inconsistencies in the continuity, and confusion over what we should consider canon. So what do I have against me? Many Decepticons have red eyes, but the strongest thing someone will tell me is the one scene in Transformers Prime where Ratchet is describing Optimus's past as Orion. We get colored drawings for the story and we see Megatron with blue eyes until the High Council meeting, where he supposedly turns to the side of evil and gets red eyes. It's hard for me to begin to say how much I dislike this. This one scene versus everything else the shows, comics, and books give us. There's no logic in this change. What should we consider now in this question? 1. Can we trust the accuracy of the design? 2. When does the design not line up with the story? Are there mentions of eye color? Do we have counterexamples? I came into this question neutral and left with the firm belief that eye color means nothing about the personality of a Cybertronian. So Transformers Prime may be the heart of the aligned continuity, but character designs are not solidified anywhere. Cartoons, games, and the concept art are artistic interpretations. Megatron may look more like this or like this. Alvatron might be purple or silvery white. Starscream might have had heels in the past, maybe not. Still, the basic idea is the same. Optimus has an Optimus look, Megatron has sharp teeth, yada yada. The interviews in the Art of Prime talk about what artistic choices they made when designing the Decepticons. They wanted the kiddies and your basic audience to connect certain things to the goodies and the baddies. Insecticons have the same eyes as Veocons to tie them together in our minds. Purple is the color we should associate with dark energon and bad things. But eyes, no one talks about red eyes. No one mentions red eyes in the show or even the sequel. The books never mention them as having any meaning either. But the creators were putting in red eyes because we would see that as evil. You might be thinking, alright, maybe Cybertronians don't see red as evil, but they chose red to show their allegiance. Alright, well, can anyone then tell me why red would be that choice? Before I bring in the counterexamples to this argument, let's stop and realize that this whole blue versus red is widespread in our human Earth culture. And while I would agree that blue is a good color in Cybertronian culture, there is nothing I see in Cybertronian culture that would make them see red as bad or the opposite team color to blue. I would have said for them it would be a blue versus purple, yet I cannot do that either since Cybertronians had not known about Dark Energon for the longest time. They simply did not connect purple to Unicron because of their ignorance. Red might only represent rareness, energy, or expensiveness in their culture if they would think of red energon. Next, I want you to consider why they would change their eye colors. Why would they choose their eye colors to show off their allegiance when they literally wear symbols already telling that? If they wanted to show the world their allegiance, would it not be more effective to change the color of their bodies instead? You can't even see someone's eye color until you get close to them. This question is important to ask if you believed eye color was meaningless and a mere choice to show allegiance. I don't think many people were believing this, but the later counterexamples will finish off this argument for good. Now back to the main debate, my view is this. Megatron's eyes were never actually blue, but always red. The flashback designs are not to be taken as fully accurate. I might have said they are influenced by Jack's beliefs, but I'm not fully confident in that. I merely see it as the artist's design that does not match the logic of the universe. Riddle me this, fam. If Bot's eyes turned red when they were evil, Cybertronians would have been completely aware of that, right? Cybertron was corrupt before the war, with higher castes enjoying blood sports and living off the slavery of others. There must have been tons of red-eyed politicians and gang leaders if red eyes equaled evil wasn't a thing. And in such a reality, blue-eyed bots would learn to worry about those red eyes. But that is never, ever the case. Starscream was a haughty, higher caste bot and has probably been ambitious for all of his life. But if his red eyes betrayed his personality, wouldn't others have worried about having a red-eyed bot as military commander? Megatron was a murderer and angry bot before befriending Orion, and still was during their friendship. He was doing evil things before the High Council meeting. His eyes would have turned before that one moment of rage, wouldn't they? If Megatron had once had blue eyes, if the red change showed a dark spark, then do you not think that Orion would have freaked out when he saw Megatron again? Optimus loses his memories and only has Orion's memories up to his early friendship with Megatronus. He sees Megatron approaching him with red eyes, but never once questions them. There's no, "Megatronus, what happened?" or any sign of fear whatsoever. Orion completely believes Megatron's lies about the blue-eyed Autobots being evil enemies. He is very comfortable around Megatron despite his fearsome appearance because Megatron has always had that appearance. That is my other beef with these explanatory images. Megatron's spikes are cut and he looks softer, but why would that ever be a thing? Megatron was a famous, unbeatable gladiator back then. Spikes were way more appropriate back when Megatron was constantly fighting to the death than right now as a leader who doesn't fight nearly as much. What, when they split between Autobots and Decepticons, and Megatron goes, "Soundwave, I don't think I look intimidating enough. I must be pointier." No, mates, there was never a better time to be pointy than as a gladiator. Blue is good, but blue is boring. Primus was never about making Cybertronians the same, and that is very clear in the Covenant of Primus. Onyx Prime even gave himself and his relic to the Well of Allspark so that alien beasts could influence and diversify generations of Cybertronians, which I'll fully explain in another video. But the point is that no one has to look like Prima to be pure of heart. Natural armor colors and eye colors that you are just born with are unique and beautiful. Blue is likely the most common eye color. Red may be second most common, followed by yellow. Yellow, orange, and purple may be more common in animalistic Cybertronians. What can I do now to explain why so many Decepticons have red eyes? Well, here's my attempt. Most Seekers join the Decepticons. Flyers might simply have a higher chance of having red eyes. Heck, even Shockwave was apparently a flying bot before. Also, the slaves who were Decepticons were the strong, heavy-set grounder types. Maybe the tank Cybertronians just genetically also have a higher chance? Yes, that reason has no proof, but it is an explanation to account for the many red-eyed Decepticons when evilness and allegiance do not seem to be the cause. But you know, while Transformers Prime kept the red eyes on the Decepticons' side, we were never shown many Decepticon characters in the show, and not even all of them had red eyes. Arachnid had purple, all Viacons and Insecticons had orange, Decepticon-aligned Predacons had yellow, and Breakdown had yellow. Viacons would have definitely had red eyes if it was an allegiance thing, don't you think? So again, red eyes for allegiance isn't showing, and red for evil isn't either. Okay, I know how hated Robots in Disguise 2015 is. I honestly dislike this show so much, but my list of reasons against it is long. Well, there's a tiny amount of things that impressed me. One was that the show actually undid the Decepticons have red eyes idea. We can reject Robots in Disguise as not canon out of hatred, but yet there was an effort in this continuity to show the meaninglessness of eye color. We had blue-eyed Decepticons, random colors everywhere, and red-eyed Autobots. In fact, there was one episode in particular I liked very much. In it, the audience is introduced to a friend of Strongarm, the Autobot. This episode, she is avoiding capture by this scary-looking red-eyed bot. We viewers think, oh, that is clearly a bad guy. But the twist at the end is that he was simply a mute, red-eyed Autobot. His crotch tells us so. The line continuity and all of its story writing everywhere never talks about or gives meaning to natural eye color. Eye color change only occurs when something new enters the Cybertronian's blood. I don't know why it would change their eye color, but the designers thought it would be cool. I mean, human culture does like those eye change power-ups. But anyway, purple means you did Dark Energon, green for synthetic, maybe even red for Red Energon, except we could not tell with Starscream's eyes already being red. But natural eye color means nothing, and eye color changes for allegiance does not happen. Breakdown was as loyal as they come, but he never made a change, nor was he asked to. Yellow does not mean neutrality when Predaking, Skylynx, and Darksteel were born yellow-eyed. Onyx Prime also had yellow eyes, but he was a very friendly Prime, and that didn't change them to blue. Looks like I've started getting into the exceptions. Alright, actually the Covenant of Primus made a big deal out of Megatronus' appearance. Prima had a thing against the Primes who were made the latest, suspicious that Megatronus and Leech Maximo were more like Unicron, while he, the first Prime, was closest to Primus. Megatronus looked like a stereotypical bad guy. He was dark like the night, had red eyes, and they said he looked the most like Unicron. Megatronus loved Primus, but his similarity to Unicron made the other Primes suspicious of him. Prima looked the most like Primus, basically the ideal design of a holy warrior. But he was kind of an ass. Megatronus always felt like an outsider. He was made to be scared of himself, and he could not feel confident in his goodness like the others could. That is a compelling story, but then Robots in Disguise shat all over it by making him a straight-up evil guy. Anyway, Solus Prime was having none of it and treated him very kindly and affectionately, and Megatronus responded to that with love for her. As someone informed me, Grimlock's bot form is red-eyed, and I noticed it was even before Shockwave's experiment on him. You'll also see that the majority of their team is red-eyed, and they make no effort to change that. In the first Dinobot graphic novel, you see an Autobot named Airwave, blue-eyed, who cannibalized Cybertronians, killing them and drinking their blood. No evil eye change there. In this comic, you'll see most Autobots have blue eyes, but there are certainly a sprinkle of red-eyed Autobots mingled into their crowds. Knockout is red-eyed even after switching sides, and could anyone argue that Knockout was evil enough to get a red-eye change? Worse than Airwave? Knockout is vain, but he's not any more evil than Breakdown. He was less violent than Breakdown, actually. To say red means evil would be putting Knockout beside Megatron and Starscream on their danger level. No, mates, it looked like the Align Continuity wanted to establish in its story that eye color was just eye color, unless you were doing drugs. When we see images contradicting this, we should recognize that it is illogical to everything else in the continuity, and know it is artistic interpretation. So you don't have to write or draw Starscream with blue eyes if he joins the Autobots in your fanfiction. If no Cybertronian gives meaning to eye colors, and neither should we. A red-eyed Cybertronian can be left alone in the Autobots. Don't you think it would be boring if all the goodies had blue eyes anyway? I rather think the natural existence of various eye colors, pupils, and eye shapes is quite lovely.